Hi everyone, it's Carolyn Moore, and I am doing this webinar, little coach-a-thon, for you on the topic of 3 biggest mistakes that widows make that keep them feeling anxious, angry, and unworthy. So we did this webinar a couple days ago, and it didn't record. Does anyone know what it feels like to have really good intentions and then it not happen? And you promise a lot of people something and you can't deliver? It's the worst feeling in the world. And so today I am going to re-record the best possible way that I can, not from my home in Orlando, Florida, but here in the Adirondacks of New York. I'm in Keene Valley, New York, and this behind me is the Ausable River, and I thought this would be a perfect place to be able to have this topic. Not only are you going to be nurtured and uplifted by this coach-a-thon, but also I hope this environment really helps you relax and receive the message as well. So again, I apologize for all of you who were on the call because we had 150 ladies sign up, and I really do hope to do these more often. But we're going to go ahead and in a few minutes, I am just going to kind of dive into the information about those 3 mistakes. And I'm also going to tell you about the exciting events and the ways that you can get the additional support that you deserve, okay? And then I'm going, at the webinar, I opened it up for a Q&A, and unfortunately, only the people who were on that call will get to know what happened with that. But in the future, we'll make sure that we do it right and we get these coach-a-thons nailed down, the process, and we'll make sure we'll get those to you. But today, I just want to make sure that you at least have the content that was delivered and you get the help that you need and the support and the information. So I'm going to go ahead and just start with a little bit of my story because some of you don't actually know who I am. And I'm, again, Carolyn Moore. And I'm just like you, a woman who found herself one of the 2,800 widows that become widowed, every day in this country, in America. And my life was pretty normal for the most part. Went to college, found a man I fell in love with, Chad Moore, had 2 children, built an interior design firm, 50 people. I'm actually an interior designer. I have been for 25 years, had my own businesses. And then on Valentine's Day, 2000, I was out for dinner with my husband, and a hit-and-run driver crashed into our vehicle, and he had forgotten to put his seatbelt on and was thrown from the vehicle and died from severe head trauma. And it was the biggest trauma of my life, and everything changed after that. So that was, I was 37 years old. My daughters were 2 and 4. I've raised them now for the last 18 years to 20 and 22, and I've learned a lot about rebuilding life and what that looks like and really what it takes. So, but back then, everything, I was anxious and I was angry and I did feel unworthy and I did make a lot of mistakes. And I like to always say that, widowhood is this stage of life where you don't get to do it perfectly. No one gets to do it perfectly. And so there has to be a lot of self-compassion and empathy for your own situation because you don't always get that out in society. But my life, had this really a crazy plot twist that happened to it. And I reached out to the grief center that we had locally in Orlando, the New Hope for Kids, and I took my daughters there, and I was able to get help for a year. And then I did what most people do, and I go to grief counseling, and then that led me to volunteering at New Hope for Kids, and I was on the board there actually for 12 years. But my 5th year of actually volunteering there, a film crew came into town from TLC, and they were doing a pilot for a new TV show called Shalom in the Home with Rabbi Shmuley Botek. And I ended up being on the show, and it was this rabbi that comes into your home and he helps you figure out the problems that you're having in your family. And the show kind of nicely wraps up this beautiful solution. And for me, it wasn't just a TV show. It actually changed my life. And you can still get that Shalom in the Home and watch it and see me at year 6 and how deeply I was still angry and anxious and feeling unworthy privately. It was the mask that I put on for the world, and then there was me, what was really happening to me internally. And so that show ended up getting seen by the Oprah show. And I got invited to share my story on Oprah. And on Shalom in the Home, I used a fictitious name, Morgan's, the Morgan family. But on the Oprah show, I actually had to use my real name. And what I didn't know is what the Oprah effect was going to do was going to cause hundreds of thousands of women to be reaching out to me and asking me if I could mentor, if I could teach them, if I could guide them through widowhood because maybe they were in their first year or whatever. And I felt completely unworthy, and that made me feel anxious. And I, really was just struggling as a single, solo parent mom and running my business, and I could not do anything. And so, but I was so surprised by the reaction by society. And what I know now is that there's actually 14 million widows in this country. And that 2,800 women will become widowed every day in America. And so I didn't myself realize the amount of women that would actually want this kind of connection and guidance and wisdom and advice that I had experienced and learned from and applied, and the books I'd read. And so that ended up being, a really interesting experience because they re-aired my show for 4 years. And every time that would happen, my life would be interrupted, like, oh, you're that lady who lost your husband on Valentine's Day, and oh, can you help me? And so, people were coming to my home, and I ended up having to move from my home, and it was a really uncontrollable situation. And so in 2011, when she went off the air, I decided to start and do something. And I started with 2 ladies in my home, and I started the organization, the nonprofit Modern Widows Club. And it really was a very simple idea that if you wanted to be mentored, if you needed guidance, you'd be able to find someone who was further along than you and connect with them so that you did not have to make the mistakes and learn quicker, suffer less than I did. Because I thought, wow, if I sort of understood these mistakes sooner than later, then maybe I would have found purpose. Maybe I would have found peace. Maybe I would have found the things that I was really looking for and I needed. And so that's just a little bit, of my story, because today I get to have this amazing privilege and honor to help other widows rebuild and redesign their life. Through Modern Widows Club and through my one-on-one mentoring and through the retreats and the programs that I have. And, just the amount of books that I can refer to you and just all of those things. And so I just want you to know I just love that we can communicate in this way. And I plan to have a lot more coach-a-thons in the future because they're so needed. This work is so important because you are important and you matter. So I just wanted to just give you a little background story there. So I'm going to go ahead and go into the 3 biggest mistakes that widows make that keep them feeling anxious, angry, and unworthy. And, what are we talking about when we say that? We kind of all know, if you're on this call, you really do understand what it's like to be constantly frustrated. What I don't have to show you, because I wasn't prepared to do this, is the secondary losses that happen in widowhood. The loss of identity and faith and intimacy and our parenting partner, our general sense of security, our homes in many cases, jobs, family, friends, that don't want to be really involved in your life anymore because it's too difficult. Those secondary losses and that bubble chart, which I'll include when you get this video, Those are the things that constantly, I call it the pinball machine of widowhood. And so your initial loss is the first one, but then all of these other bubbles, women are constantly bumping up against them. And what's happening in that is an amazing amount of stress, okay, that most people don't even know is happening because it's happening in the background of your life. But it does happen to every widow. So what happens is when you bump into all of these bubbles, you're being thrown back into distress constantly. And so the distress is, coming from, the impossibility to be able to cope and manage and guide and know what the right thing is to do in the areas. You can get through them a lot easier when you have a mentor and a community to connect into and someone who really understands the unique struggles and obstacles that we have. So that does, it does exist. But those bubbles, what I realize is there's this scale called the Holmes and Ray Social Readjustment Scale. And losing a spouse is the number one most stressful life event according to that scale. It's a 100 stress points, okay? And the next thing down is divorce, and it's 73 points. There's nothing in between. And so all these different secondary losses that no one really talks about to us or in sort of the health or medical industry, those add up to about 300 points pretty quickly. And so when you get up to 300 points, you have an 80% chance of becoming seriously ill. That was the moment that I realized, wow, this is an widowhood is an all-front attack for women's health. And so what we end up talking about at our widow empowerment events, what we end up talking at Modern Widows Club meetings with these, is all about having extreme self-care, about being selfless towards yourself, not selfish, okay? Because this is the one time in your life that you need you the very most, okay? There is no other life experience that is more stressful than this. And so your attention to your health, whether that's mental, physical, spiritual, and it does have to be all of those, it needs your attention. And what I also don't have here is, the graphic that I show that we created of the bridge that is being built right now. So we have the bridge of who she was and who she's becoming. And on that bridge, the grief organization does pretty good in that first quadrant until you get to the top of the bridge. And it used to be, there were no places to really connect for widows on a larger scale. And so you, like me, fell into the water. And so you're left to sort of drown in the experience, and you're just treading water to get to the shore, and it's survival mode, okay? So what Modern Widows Club and me and the leaders and advocates in this organization are really looking at the rest of the bridge, like we're building that bridge brick by brick. And in that area, you get champions and you get supporters and encouragers, and it's really focused on reconciliation. What just happened to me? And it's focused on bringing in inspiration and motivation, and then just, real things that help with your long-term life. Because grief is really about, and bereavement is focused in the first couple of years, and it can become delayed if you don't really tap in to these highly resilient individuals and communities. So what's happening here is that, I follow a book called Resilience, The Science of Mastering Life's Greatest Challenges by Dr. Steve Southwick, who will actually be Skyping in at our Widow Empowerment event. And he is the foremost authority in resilient science. And there's 10 components that make everyone resilient. It doesn't matter what you go through. Ours is the hardest, okay? So that's why it's most important for us to get this information. There's 10 components. 8 of them you can do yourself, facing fear, creating emotional stability, moving your body physically, providing what it needs, finding some kind of spiritual or faith connection that's, part of something bigger than you. There's, there's many things on that list, but 2 of them you have to actually go outside yourself to get. You have to find people to imitate that you are inspired by, and you learn what worked for them. don't make it hard on yourself. The other one is you need to find a positive community that really understands you, right? And so that is a really important part of what we're doing here with these coach-a-thons and also at the Widow Empowerment event. So I just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of history of why it's so important about overcoming these three things, because the awareness that you have is the first step. That not only can we, which kind of brings me to the actual first mistake. So the first mistake is thinking that you have no control or choice, okay? And so what do I mean by that is exactly what I was just talking about, because we have all experienced this death experience of someone that we did not want to let go. We did not want to be detached from. It throws us into this mode of distress, okay? And distress is negative stress. We all experience it, but to choose to move the dial over to eustress, which is positive stress, sets you on a completely different trajectory. Okay, it kind of makes sense when I show people that graphic, but it really is about choosing the things that you're going to do. And you do have choice. You can react or you can respond, right? When something new, when all those bubbles happen, you can respond or you can react. React is, kind of instinctual. Responding is, I have some knowledge here. It has validity, and I can make a choice to make a different trajectory for my life. So the truth is that you do actually have a lot of control in this situation. You got to find the courage, and you got to have the bravery to do that, and you have to be around other people actually doing it. So that's one really important. And so that leads me to the second mistake that widows make, and that is not taking action. And this is the kicker, right? Because you can become aware and you can know that you have control, but that scary part, that facing fear, again, here's the resilience builder, you taking that action is what is so important. Because when you start to, there's one thing to say you're going to do it, and we all know this, and then there's actually doing it. That's where the hard work starts, because you have to actually go and apply for that job. You have to go outside your house and go show up for that event. You have to go on that first date. You have to go and stand up for yourself. You have to go and say, I need help, and I don't know what's going to happen on the other side, but I'm going to trust that something good for me is going to be found in that situation. So the widow, I just want to continue to talk about the Widow Empowerment event we have coming in August 2nd through the 5th in Orlando, because that is a lot of what I'll be doing right in front of you, like coaching ladies, and they're going to be asking really hard questions, and you're going to learn from those. That was a big part of what happened last year, is that I was blown away at the amount of knowledge that was amassed just being in that room for 3 days. And so being there to just absorb, even if you sit back and you're not quite ready to make a change, being in that room will impact and transform your life. A lot of times it's just picking a small goal, and it might just be showing up and not really committing to anything that's being said, but being in that room, you will feel the energy of women unconditionally loving you, supporting you, cheering for you. They're going to be your greatest champions, in this journey, and you want to tap into that. If you can come, I don't want to hear any excuses. I want you to do whatever, whether you have to drive, fly, ask your friends, family, work, church, place of worship, anyone to get yourself there, because it really, really is that important. And so that ties me into the biggest mistake that widows make, and that is isolating ourselves. And I am so guilty of this. I've done it. It's horrible. I'm not productive when I do that. But then again, there's that action, there's that choice, there's that I can choose to create a different scenario for myself in widowhood. And I will, because I'm going to tell you, you're going to have to fight for your happiness. You're going to fight for your joy and your peace and all of that. And that's just the way it is. And so whatever you can do to get it, it's yours. it is 100% attainable. And I have seen this happen literally thousands of times with the ladies. And their answers are going to be different than yours, as it was different from mine and where I am today, to have this honor to be able to share what I've learned from literally thousands of widows and seeing these patterns and where they get stuck. And your eyes are going to be completely opened to what is possible for you now. So there was, like that saying, like with Nike, it's like, just do it. And it's a very dangerous situation to stay isolated, because that's where your brain, that whole negative stress that I was talking about, distress, that is where you reign. Okay. Moving over here, because it takes like 5 or 6 like positives to like 1 negative. And over here, the negative is just gripping you. The grief is just like throwing you down. It immobilizes you. And so when you take yourself out of that scenario and you come over here and you get into a room where so many things are possible and you see it happening and you hear these stories, you'll be shocked at how the parallels are in your life and what that person did to overcome that particular instance. Because it can be. It literally can be. And it's a beautiful thing to see so much support and guidance given. So I mean, this is exactly why I do what I do. It's exactly why I started the nonprofit Modern Widows Club, and why I'm hosting this Widow Empowerment event August 2nd through the 15th in Orlando at the Ritz-Carlton. It's just a 3-day weekend where you'll learn everything that you need to know about rebuilding, about growing, about living an empowered and resilient life. And I so want that for you. Last year we had ladies who said, I so wished I would have came after they saw the photos, and there was nothing I could do about that. They just didn't come. And it broke my heart. And you can see some of the videos on the Modern Widows Club YouTube channel if you go over there and see some of the amazing widow speakers and just speakers that really support widows really well. Go over there and get a little sample of what's about to happen. I mean, this is the biggest, most amazing event in North America. You must be there. So, you're going to be joined by all these other pioneering widows and these experts, and they're just going to pour, love into you. And you can absolutely create this for yourself. I have 100% confidence in you being able to do this. And, the fact that you're showing up and watching this video all the way through here tells me that, yes, you are ready. You are ready to be able to receive. And that's a big part too, being able to receive. There's asking for help, and then there's receiving what we need. Sometimes we don't actually know what we need in this life stage, but at this event, everything is what you need. And so the logistics are, right now you can sign up, and to be honest with you, June 30th is the last day for early bird. It's $197 for the whole 3-day event. And you don't have to stay at the hotel. You can stay anywhere you want, but please stay there if you want. Bring a roommate. You can bring a friend. You can bring any female friend. It can be your sister, your sister-in-law, your granddaughter, your daughter, any female, what we call golden friends and family, to the event with you. Because, everyone has to pay to come, but that person will be an amazing accountability partner. And that's what we discovered last year, is a lot of ladies did that. And it really made such a huge difference when they returned home and they became spokespeople in their families and circles of friends. So it wasn't always you explaining what was going on. And I love that a lot of daughters, are going to be coming this year, because they lost their parent too. And it's very, significant and nurturing for them as well. So we have rooms at the Ritz-Carlton. They're $149. The lowest, it's half price. Lowest I negotiated. It's pretty amazing. And we've got some ladies coming from different Modern Widows Club chapters and rooming together. And, there's a limited time till July 9th when that price is available. And so you do want to book that room as soon as possible. I just want to make sure that you have the information for this event. And you can go to widowempowermentevent.com, widowempowermentevent.com. And it's got a lot of questions. You can talk to my events team. There's a number there that you can call if you have any questions about any aspect of this event. But I really do want you to break out of that anxious, angry, and unworthy stage. And a lot of people call it the waiting room, or it's like, the bereavement and grief stage, because we are focused on growth and empowerment and getting you to a place of not just surviving but thriving. Just like me, and just like really hundreds of women that you're actually going to meet at this event. And seeing, to me, is all about believing. And so go ahead and just do whatever is possible, and invite your friends. Invite another widow to come. I mean, this is something that is just so remarkable that it's just a beautiful gift, It was everything I wanted when I became widowed, and I cannot thank everyone involved in this event more for being there. So I want to tell the story about Mary E. She came last year, and she was really struggling, and her testimony, and also another woman named Donna, is on the Widow Empowerment Event.com website. So go and look for those. But for me, Mary was a perfect example of how scared they were to come to an event like this. They didn't know what to expect. She cried. She sat at the back of the room. We crowned all of our ladies with these beautiful crowns, and she didn't want her crown. She didn't want to be in the photos. But something happened to Mary when she was there, because she realized that at home she was not available to her grown kids, and she especially wasn't available to her grandkids. And her story is so powerful because when she went back, she had this realization that she was missing the life that was right in front of her. And Mary's life has completely transformed in the last year. And she's going to be at the event, and I want you to meet her, and I want you to meet Donna, and I want you to meet Tracy, who I talk about, in some of my one-on-one mentoring videos. I want you to really hear these ladies and see what they were like before and what happened afterwards, because they will tell you that this event was actually life-saving for them. And it's true. It's true. It literally, I don't know who I would have been if I would have had something like this to tap into early in widowhood, but here I am 18 years later creating this. I've met so many extraordinary people, and they're going to be here, and they're going to be here for you, because we want to give you everything you need to grow and to rebuild your life now in widowhood. And it doesn't matter what age you are, or what stage you're in, or what your circumstances are. If you show up and you're in this room for 3 days, I promise you, your life will expand, and you will surprise yourself in 1 year who you are. So please come August 2nd through the 5th in Orlando, Florida. And it probably won't be there next year, so you got to come this year. Who knows, it might end up being here. It's so beautiful here, right? But I love you guys, and I really want to thank you for coming on the call the other night, and I am super sorry that we did not know how to do it correctly. But I'm going to learn, just like we all learn, and become resilient, and I'm going to deliver that for you guys, and go ahead and do more webinars in the future, because it was so good. 150 of you signed up for that. I want to see 150 of you at my event, because what's going to happen there is just nothing short of a miracle, and I want that for you. So love you guys, and I hope you got a lot from this video, and tap in, come on, make it possible. Don't stay angry, anxious, and don't stay unworthy, because you deserve the best life possible today. Love you.